Well, it's no secret that 2020 has been a strange year, and 2021, well, looks like it's starting off on that strange foot again. I've been a fan of and been following the National Football League for close to 20 years now, and this offseason has been I've seen some of the craziest head coaching hires I've ever seen. So I decided I'm going to do a YouTube video, rant, what have you, or a countdown list of going from best to worst of the NFL head coaching hires this offseason. And if you don't know, yes, just yesterday, the Houston Texans hired their head coach, so all 7 vacancies are now full. And they'll stay that way unless we have a New York Mets situation, right? Okay. So let me start with the best hire is Arthur Smith to the Atlanta Falcons. This one here, it's a good hire because he was just the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans the last 2 years. What did he do with that? Well, he took Ryan Tannehill from a failed first-round draft pick of the Miami Dolphins to a all-star top 10, one of the 10 best starting quarterbacks in the whole league, and even in some leagues you probably say Ryan Tannehill's even a top 5. And so did revolutionize the passing game in Tennessee. Also, of course, Derrick Henry also had a great running game there, headed with Derrick Henry. And you look at the guy's resume, he's 38 years old, so he's a youngster, but he's got 15 years of 15 years of coaching experience. Started off here, he'd actually been with the Titans for a decade. Started with defensive quality control, offensive quality control, offensive line, tight ends coach for 3 years, and then offensive coordinator for the last 2. If you want a textbook definition of what to look for, who to hire in a head coach, Arthur Smith to the Atlanta Falcons, in my opinion, is definitely the best of this 7 of the 7 that were just hired. Okay, and let's go to the next one. Robert Saga to the New York Jets. I like this hire. Not as much as I like Arthur Smith. This one, he's a defensive coordinator for the last 4 seasons with San Francisco. But before that, he also has a lot of experience. Was a linebackers coach for the Jaguars for 3 seasons, defensive quality control coach with the Seahawks for 3 years before that, and that was with the Texans for 4 years, doing defensive quality control and assistant linebackers. This hire I like because it is a complete contrast from the previous head coach of the New York Jets, who is Adam Gase, or Adam Introverted Gase. Both of these guys could not be more different in their demeanor. Robert Saleh, hopefully you've watched enough of the NFL to know that he is a very animated guy, and he's also he's a very emotional guy on the sidelines. The defense does something good, defense does a pick six, he is rah rah rah, running with the defense down the sidelines, jumping up and down, smiling. When the defense does something bad, yeah, he's a monster, very unhappy. But the thing about Robert Saleh is he likes getting attention. He likes the spotlight. And what is the best city in America for people that like and crave attention and the spotlight? New York, right? New York City, where it's constantly 24/7. If you are affiliated with a sports team as a coach or a player, the media is constantly going to give you the spotlight, constantly going to grill you and give you all the attention that you deserve or maybe not deserve. Adam Gase was, I don't have a hat, but he was like, he wore his hat way down here. In press conferences, he had a bald spot, a big, ugly bald spot right here. You can always tell that he was wearing a hat to cover up his bald spot, but also it's one of the things that somebody does if they're very shy, introverted. He just, Adam Gase, solid credentials as an offensive coordinator, but as a head coach, you really have to have, introverts have been good head coaches before. Example, Tony Dungy, Jim Caldwell, a few others. But most of the time, you need somebody who is really going to have a little bit of a fire in their belly. Maybe not as much as Robert Saleh, but still fire in their belly. Number 3 on our list of best, again, we're going best to worst. And we just had 2 very good hires. Now, I start to get a little bit wishy-washy. And this is where I start to get a little bit, I'm not too crazy about the hires. They can honestly go either way. And this one, number 3, is Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions. And this one, I'll be honest with you, that the best person for the job for Detroit Lions, in my opinion, would have been Marvin Lewis, who was head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals for about 15 seasons, and then I think the year before, was fired from that job. But what Marvin Lewis did in Cincinnati over his tenure was he got the Bengals to the playoffs many years. I think it was like 7 consecutive seasons in a row that the Bengals would get to the playoffs. Now, Marvin Lewis never won a playoff game, but he at least established a winning culture, a consistent winning culture year after year. Okay. Previously, the Bengals, they went, 15 years without even a winning season or a playoff berth. It was a dumpster fire before Marvin Lewis arrived. And you look at the Detroit Lions, they're kind of in that same rut that the Bengals were in back in the 90s, early 2000s. And Marvin Lewis, he has that experience to turn around a dumpster fire of a team and make it a consistent contender. But the Lions here go with Dan Campbell, who, again, he's at number 3 out of 7, so he's certainly not the worst hire, not the best hire either. But what I like here, where I look at his resume, is he played on the 0-16 Lions team of 2016. He's a former tight end. He was in the league for about 10 years. And then the last 10 years he's been a coach. Started with the Miami Dolphins as a tight ends coach. And over the last 5 seasons was with the New Orleans Saints as an assistant to the head coach. So where Dan Campbell could be successful in Detroit is that he has come from a very good quality organization in the New Orleans Saints that knows how to win. So he knows how to win. He also knows how to lose, because remember, I just told you he was on the 0-16 Lions of 2008. Okay. So this hire could go either way. We'll have to see. Also, he was an interim head coach back in 2015, where he went 5-7. So actually, he's got some head coaching experience before. When I first heard of this hire by the Detroit Lions, I wasn't crazy about it at all. I even put on my Facebook page, haha, what in the world? But when you start breaking down Dan Campbell's resume, he's actually a guy who you start to think, why wasn't he hired a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago? But now his time has come, and certainly wish him the best of luck in Detroit. Now, number 4. This is where we really start to, in my opinion, these teams really start to, it's like they stick their finger in the air, and whichever way the wind's blowing, that's what they're going to do. It's just really full of logic. Number 4 on the list, we have Brandon Staley to the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay. Why is this a bad hire? Well, first of all, the Los Angeles Chargers have a really outstanding, really excellent quarterback coming off his rookie year named Justin Herbert. Had a great year, broke all kinds of rookie records, and so you would think the Chargers would want to hire an offensive head coach to help continue Justin Herbert's development and to make sure he doesn't fall into this sophomore slump, or he doesn't become another Jared Goff or Carson Wentz, that Justin Herbert continues to progress until hopefully the next Phillip Rivers, or maybe somebody a little bit better. But no, they hire Brandon Staley, who, you look at his resume, he was defensive coordinator for 1 season with the Los Angeles Rams. 1 season, okay? And before that, he just had 3 years in the pros as an outside linebackers coach. Now, he spent about 10 years in the college ranks, but the colleges that he was at was not, these were not powerhouse schools. John Carroll, where is that? James Madison, really? Hutchinson, St. Thomas, Northern Illinois, really? So this I don't like this hire, but believe it or not, there are even worse hires on the list. It gets worse. Number 5 on our best to worst head coaching list is Urban Meyer to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This one. Now, if you look at Urban Meyer, outstanding head coach. Everywhere he's coached, he's won. Bowling Green, he won. Utah, you won. Florida, yes. the Ohio State University, yes. Okay. Here's the bad part. He has never had a single coaching position in the NFL. Not a coordinator. Heck, he hasn't even been a quality control coach. So, and you look at the history of coaches that have gone from the collegiate ranks to the NFL, and most of them have failed. Okay, let me look at this article here from Athlon Sports. Okay, they have the list of the good. These are college coaches that have. These are coaches that have gone from college to NFL and have succeeded. First one on their list is Pete Carroll. Now this one I put an asterisk by because Pete Carroll was head coach for the Patriots back in the late 90s. And then he went to USC. Okay, and then he came back. So this one, Pete Carroll is a stretch. Jim Harbaugh, yes, success story. Coach of Stanford and then went to the 49ers and turned them around. Jimmy Johnson, yeah, no-brainer there. Okay, so we have two and a half. Excuse me, well, two. I'm not going to count Pete Carroll. Two coaches that have done well from college to the pros. The bad, Chip Kelly, Nick Saban. Well, Nick Saban did have one winning season, 9-7, and Chip Kelly won also. But Chip Kelly started off good, went back-to-back 10-6 seasons, 6-9, was fired, I think, prematurely by the Eagles, in my opinion. But then he went to the 49ers and went 2-14, and that was the end for Chip Kelly. So, okay, so we have two good, one bad. Nick Saban, 2-2. Steve Spurrier, Dick McPherson, Bobby Petrino, Mike Riley. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bad and 2 good. So in other words, a college coach going to the NFL succeeds about 33% of the time in that unscientific study. Okay, now we got the final two. Number 6, Nick Cerani to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll be honest with you, if you look at this Nick Cerani fella and his resume, he actually looks pretty good. I mean, he's got about 10 years of coaching experience in the NFL. Started off with offense, quality control coach with the Chiefs, quarterback coach, wide receivers coach. Went to the Chargers, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, and the last 3 years has been offensive coordinator under Frank Reich. Now, why do I say the name Frank Reich there? Well, Frank Reich was on the Philadelphia Eagles staff as a offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The logic here, I think, for the Eagles was that they fired Doug Peterson because Doug Peterson did not want to be a puppet. They needed somebody who was in that Frank Reich, Doug Peterson coaching tree, but the Eagles wanted to hire somebody who could be a puppet. Okay, so they asked themselves, well, Colts wouldn't let them have Frank Reich. So they go one step down and get the offensive coordinator of Frank Reich's staff in Indianapolis. And there you go, you have Nick Cerani. Okay. But to me, this is kind of like, well, you fired the head coach of the guy who, you fired the leader, you cut off the head of the snake, but you still want the snake's body. Does that make any sense? You fire Doug Peterson, but you still have the body of the snake or a little portion of that snake in Nick Cerani. And the argument here is that they should have kept Frank Reich. I mean, really. They should have kept Doug Peterson. That's, because they're just going to the well again. They're getting the same exact kind of coach they had that Doug Peterson was, except the only difference is that Nick Cerani, they think that he can be a water boy for Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, rather than be someone who is going to stand up to Roseman and tell Roseman he's wrong. Nick Cerani is going to be a yes man. They want somebody who's going to be a yes man. That's the reason. So in other words, it's Howie Roseman, it's Jeffrey Lurie. They're the ones that run the Eagles, not Nick Cerani. Okay, so for the Eagles' job, it's really what it came down to was they could not get any. It was a very unattractive job. Because one, you got to figure out who in the world is your starting quarterback going to be in 2021. Is it going to be? Can you resurrect the career of Carson Wentz, or is he done? If he's done, you got big salary cap problems to deal with. And even if you can fix Carson Wentz, you still have major salary cap problems because of all this money gave me Alshon Jeffrey and all these other players that are hurt more than half the season at a time. So yeah, the Eagles, I think it's going to be at least probably 3 or 4 years before they're a playoff team again. It's just an absolute mess in Philadelphia. But there's even one worse. The Houston Texans. Well, I do not know what in the world they were thinking on this. But number 7, the worst head coaching hire, David Culley. It's the Houston Texans. Now, if you're not a Ravens fan, and I am, you probably say, who the hell is David Culley, right? Who is he? Trying to think where to begin on this one. 65 years old. Now, you can say that there have been some older coaches hired, okay? But the difference was, in the case of Vic Fangio, in the case of Bruce Arians, Fangio and Arians both were... Arians had many years as a quarterback's coach, many years as an offensive coordinator. Vic Fangio had many years of being a defensive coordinator. David Culley has none of that. Hiring David Culley for the Houston Texans is like if the CEO of Walmart went into a Walmart store in Wichita, Kansas, some small city in the middle of nowhere, right? Went in there and he hired Doris. Now, Doris is a nice lady. Very nice lady, very hardworking, always has a pleasant attitude, always serves the customers with a smile. But Doris has been a cashier at the Wichita Walmart for 35 years. And she's done a good job. But the problem is that the CEO of Walmart wants to hire Doris to take his job as the new CEO of Walmart. But Doris has no managerial experience. This is what the David Culley hire is. When you look at his resume, okay, let me read this back to you. It might sound boring, but stick with me. Okay, jobs held by David Culley: running backs coach, wide receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, and running backs coach. Now you think to yourself, maybe he'll get a promotion. No, back to wide receivers coach. Back to quarterbacks coach. Texas El Paso, 1989 to 1999, offensive coordinator. Okay, maybe I was wrong a little bit, but he was also running backs coach and wide receivers coach. Texas A&M, wide receivers coach. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, wide receivers coach. Wide receivers coach, Pittsburgh Steelers. Wide receivers, Philadelphia Eagles. So, wide receivers coach for 20 years, right there. Philadelphia Eagles senior offensive assistant and wide receivers coach. Kansas City Chiefs assistant head coach. Getting close finally after being a coach for 25 years. Getting close. Then it's back to the Buffalo Bills as a quarterback's coach from 2017 to 2018. And the last 2 seasons for the Baltimore Ravens, he's been assistant head coach, but also being a wide receivers coach and a passing game coordinator. Yeah, you can see why I don't like this hire. I mean, it's like, what on earth were the Houston Texans thinking? And let me look. Let me take a look at this list of the. This is all the coaches that they passed on, all the head coaching candidates that the Texans passed on. Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs offensive coordinator. Joe Brady, Panthers offensive coordinator. Jim Caldwell, former Colts and Lions head coach, who Jim Caldwell had a win record with both of those teams. Then we have Matt Eberflus, Colts defensive coordinator. Pat Fitzgerald, a college coach, but very successful from Northwestern University. Leslie Frazier, Bills defensive coordinator, also former head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. Josh McCown, Texans quarterback. Well, they interviewed him, but that's on the same thing as a disastrous hire. And then we have the 2, Arthur Smith and Brandon Staley, who were both hired. So, yeah. I don't know. I just don't know. But it just reeks as a terrible hire. And one more thing I'll say is that not only did the Houston Texans make a terrible hire, but they also pissed off their all-star quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson now wants out of Houston. He wants to be traded. You know, coming into this off-season, you had at least the one thing the Texans could hang their hat on was that, yes, we need to rebuild, but we already have a good building block in Deshaun Watson. But because you messed up this head coaching hiring process so badly, because he screwed up so badly, you're going to lose your star quarterback, and now you're either going to have to try and get a veteran through trade. And that's probably the easiest thing they have to do is going to have to go to the draft again. And you never know with the draft. You could pick a great quarterback or you can get a bust. I mean, with the Texans, really, yes, Bill O'Brien made a horrible trade, okay, in getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. But the reality of the situation is that let's go back last year, okay, you had DeAndre Hopkins still on the Houston Texans team, right? And you had Bill O'Brien there. So if you have one of the best wide receivers in the game says, I'm not getting along with Bill O'Brien, then why don't you just fire Bill O'Brien right then and there and save yourself from having to trade Hopkins, and then you trade a bunch of draft picks for Brandon Cooks and what's his name, Tunsil, and you get rid of all these draft picks, which now you need because you're in a rebuilding situation. So they've lost their wide receiver, they lost their quarterback, and they, I have to be honest with you, they probably prematurely fired Bill O'Brien. Well, what they did was they did it too late in the process now because of what has transpired. And why couldn't they have gotten if it's going to be difficult, maybe you throw a little bit more money at these head coaches like the Carolina Panthers did with Matt Rule, and a few other teams have done. It's an ugly situation. It's tough to see because for many years we saw the Eagles and the Texans as two, you could say, very good, maybe not the best run teams in the NFL, but certainly they were not the worst run teams. And now they've gone from a good run team to a bad run team in, like, it seems like it's gone, like, within the span of a year, it seems like. Because remember, last year, 2019 season, the Eagles made the playoffs and the Texans made the playoffs. Not only that, the Texans were really the best team in their division over the last 5 years, it seems like. And now, they have no defense, and they have hardly any offense, okay? The best player on their team is probably their place kicker, Kaim Fairbairn, Crazy. But that's the NFL. That's why I like to follow the NFL. You just never know how things are going to transpire, how quickly things are going to go from good to bad. And that's all I have to say about that. Good day.